Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is the second of a series of basic Python programming course. I'm Sarjun and you can call me Sarj. I'm a data scientist and a data science trainer and also a mentor to the youth as well. So before we start, I would like to again seek your understanding and requests to help me with my socials as much as possible. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. So please help me subscribe, add me, drop me a message, and I'll reply as soon as possible. Thank you. Now, getting into today's lesson. Let's see. So you should see my screen. Okay. So the last time we stopped at basically starting off a Jupyter notebook. So again, I'm going to be starting off my Jupyter notebook by going into the Anaconda prompt, right? Remember the Anaconda prompt? If not, you can actually revisit my lesson 1 and you will see how I installed the Anaconda if you have not installed the Anaconda distribution, and you can start to use Jupyter notebook. So again, I'm moving into my documents, CD, and I CD into my programming, Python programming, Python programming folder, and I type Jupyter notebook. Okay, so I will do this again. Okay, just for those who are not following, I will close this again. Start. I will click on Anaconda. I will go into my Anaconda prompt, and then I will CD into my document, CD space documents documents. So you'll see that now I'm already in my documents. Initially I was only until my home. Now it's until my documents, and then I will go into my Python programming folder. So I will CD into my Python programming folder, and I'll type Jupyter notebook here, Jupyter, Jupyter notebook folder. So Jupyter notebooks inside my Python program. So Jupyter notebook. Okay, so once that is done, you can click on enter. It should open up in Google Chrome. Right, you can see it's open up in Google Chrome. And remember, I have this my first Python file that I actually created the last time around. I'm not going to use it today. Okay, I'm going to create a new one. New Python 3 kernel. And I'm in a new file. Okay, let's start off by first renaming the Python file. So this is my second Python file. You notice that I'm not leaving any space. I'm just typing everything together. This is a convention. This is a camel case convention with the first letter as a small letter and then subsequent letters of a new word starts with a capital letter. There are different versions of camel cases. This is one that I like to use. So yeah, so this is my way of naming and referencing things as well. So rename. So it's my Python second file. You can see that there are, just like a website. Here there's Jupyter Notebook logo. This is the file name. This is a checkpoint telling you where's the last checkpoint of this file a minute ago. There are some unsafe changes, and this is a logout button. This is a Python logo as well. This file. When you click on file, you'll see that there's an option for you to start a new notebook. You can open an existing notebook. You can make a copy of this notebook. You can save as this notebook. You can rename this notebook. You can rename, go back here and rename, or you can just click here to rename, right? You can save and checkpoint. You can click save and checkpoint, and then you see saved a few seconds ago, auto save. So you can click file, you can keep saving it again and again, right? You can also revert to a checkpoint based on what is last saved. You can do a print preview, download as the different versions. I'm not going to do all that. You can close and halt. You can edit. You can move on to edit. Edit gives you you can cut cells, copy cells, delete cells, which we'll be doing later. We'll be deleting and editing some cells. Edit and remove. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm not going to do much of this yet. Split cells, move cell up and down. We're not going to do the advanced stuff as of yet now, right? But try to follow along. You can also click on view, toggle header, toggle toolbar, insert. You can insert a cell above, insert a cell below. So let's start off by inserting. So usually I'll just click on plus. You definitely can use short forms like insert with A and B and stuff, but I will just click on it with my mouse. So here I can click on plus. I can add more cells, right? If you want to insert a cell below, you click on this. If you want to insert a cell above, you click on this. So yeah, so you can also do it with, sorry, yeah, Control A is it? Yeah, there's an option for you to do it, but I rather not use shorthand. I'm too lazy, right? Anyway, so you just yeah, so there are many different ways of doing it. Here you can run cells and select below. You can run cells and insert below. Run, what does run mean? Okay, I'll explain what run means very shortly. Kernel, these are all kernels. Don't worry about kernels, we also go through them later. Widgets also, we will not be covering them too much. Okay, so kernels and cells, they're very important because they are running your system. Currently we're running in an IPY kernel here, a Python kernel. IPY means integrated Python notebook, right? IPY. And there's also a help, gives you all these different references and stuff like that. Okay, so now in this case, let's start off first by starting something very simple. Let's start off with typing what we call, some simple codes. So let's say press X. So X equals to 5, right? This is just a basic code. In order to run this code, I have to click on run, this button run, or I can click on Control and Enter. So you can see that if I click on my kernel, if you see this cell, sorry, run cell can also be achieved by Control Enter. You can also do Shift Enter and Alternate Enter. So I usually do, if I do short form, I use Control Enter. If not, you can just click on run, it will run the cell, right? So if I click on run like this, it will just run. You can see that there's a number here, means the cell has already run already, right? So that's what it means. So that's Control Enter. On the other hand, when you want to type a sentence that is not a code, we start off by using this hex sign. So when you type a hex sign, it now takes that line as a comment. So this comment is not, even though it's run, the system knows that it's not something that, it's not an action for the system to run. It will ignore that line after this particular sign, the hash sign. Different programs have different signs that they follow. So in this program for Python, we use the hex sign to comment out things that you want to write some comments about your code, which I highly encourage you to do. You use the hex sign. So if I run this, nothing happens. It just runs, right? So it just skips past those sentences with the hash sign, right? If I want to run all cells, I can click on run all. It will just run all the cells again. So let me just copy this, Control C, and type this here, and I copy this and type this here, Control C, Control V. I'm just doing this. So now you see this 1, 2. This is still not run yet. This cell is also not run yet, right? So if I click on kernel, cell, run all, you can see that it runs 3, 4, 5, 6 because 1 and 2 has already been run before. Or I can do a kernel. If I go to kernel, I can restart and clear output. So you'll just restart and clear output. You'll still keep my content there, and everything is gone. You can see it's now back to its original form where there's nothing in the memory. Everything is cleared. So I can go to my kernel and I restart and run all. So if I do a restart and run all, it will just clear everything and run everything as in 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that it's running back from scratch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So these are basic stuff, right? So this is what kernel means. Sometimes your kernel can get stuck. You need to interrupt your kernel, or you need to shut down your kernel. If you have different types of kernel, you can change kernel as well. Between the different, there's R kernels, there's Python kernels, and stuff like that. So you can switch between them as well, right? So yeah, so that's basically some introduction. I also want to go through this. So this is basically the quick way of saving. You can click on this. This is the save and checkpoint. This is to add new cell. This is to delete a cell. You cut a cell, so basically delete a cell. This is to duplicate a cell, copy a selected cell. So you can copy and then you can paste it. This is pasting the cell below, so you can paste it. You'll just paste, so copy and paste. This is moving a cell up and down. So if I want to move this cell up, I can click up, it goes up, down, it goes down. So up, it goes up. Right. Similarly, I can stop the cell. Similarly, this is the same as this. Interrupt. I can stop it as well. This is interrupt the kernel. This is to restart the kernel. This is to restart the kernel, then we run the whole notebook. Okay, with that all said, this part is very important. This is where you can see that there's this different breakdowns, right? Okay, so the most important ones that I use are code and markdown. So code and markdown. The others I don't really use them that much, but it's up to you whether you want to use them or not. It's more for styling purposes. So code is basically where you run your code. Like now, what I did is all these cells are code cells, right? But if I want to do a markdown cell, so if I change this cell, if I delete this, I mean I can still leave the comment word there. If I change it to a markdown is basically just a text kind of a markdown. So if I were to run this cell, you'll see that it's like a paragraph kind of thing, right? So I can do something like this. I can this is a paragraph, and then I can do like if you see this is a very big, this is a paragraph is very big, right? If I do it with multiple hex signs, it gets smaller. This is a paragraph. It's a sentence lah, paragraph. I mean, I should call it. This is a sentence. Okay, maybe I should rename this. This is a big sentence, and this is a small sentence. Right? This is a big sentence. This is a small sentence. So you can see it's kind of like, you know, they're just different styling and all that. Right? Obviously, you can choose not to put the hex sign in front. You can just type a simple command. This is a simple markdown sentence. Right? Yeah. So markdown, you can do a lot of things. It's just basically text for you to type in and store it as something to easily read. So this is what I did earlier earlier in my previous lecture. I actually showed you some text. You know, I wrote everything in a text format, so I was using markdown. So it's easy to present, especially if you want to present some findings in your notebook. You can use markdowns to type your findings as well, besides using comments as well. Right. So with that said, let me just quickly take a quick pause here. So before moving into my other lecture, yeah, just hold on for a while. I'm just transferring some files over. It's taking a while to download. Not download, transferring. Sorry. Don't worry. I will cut off this part if it's too long. Okay, it's done. It's done. It's done. Okay, so just a moment. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so again, I hope you have started your Anaconda. Go back to Anaconda prompt one more time. Okay, this time around, I want you to create your own Jupyter Notebook file. I want you to call it lesson 3. Right, lesson 3, lesson 2 actually. Let me show you. So let me go into my documents. Let me go into my Python programming. Okay, and I type in Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so I have saved all my stuff that I need to teach under this folder called courses. So you can also do a folder called courses. You can create a new folder here by clicking new folder, right? You can call this, you can rename this folder, right? You can click on this and rename. You can call it whatever you want to call it, right? So you can call this course materials, right? You can do that, and then you can click on this, and then you can start off your new Python kernel. Okay, the materials that I've created, yep, so that's basically it. Yeah, so you know, if you want to follow along, just create. You do have to have all this. You don't have all this, it's okay. It's all my references, so don't worry about this. Okay, so these are all my references. Okay, so let's get started. So just follow along. I mean, I'll be going through with you. You can just copy as you go through. You would know, you know, the different tasks. So just give me a moment. Yeah, I should open this. I should. Okay, so let's start off with this. Okay, So here we are in our Python programming portion for today. We are in the basics, Python programming. We're going to be learning introduction to Python. We're going to be doing some printing statements. We're going to be doing some comments and markdowns. I think comments and markdowns, I already covered it a bit earlier, so it shouldn't be very difficult to understand, right? So let's start off. Jupyter Notebook is a web-based application suitable for developing and documenting and executing code, as well as communicating the results. I think earlier I showed you different aspects of Jupyter Notebook for you to try out, right? So there are two application components: the web interface as well as the notebook usage integration. So you know that we were typing some notes, some comments as well, right? The Jupyter Notebook is used with over 40 programming languages, okay, but usually it's with Python, R, Julia, Scala, right? These are the more common within the data science community, right? You can also use it with big data, right? Apache Spark using Python, R, and Scala programming tools. Don't worry too much about this. I'm just giving you an introduction, okay? Let's get straight into it and let's start some print function, okay? So in this print function, I am going to show you how to do just a basic print function, right? So for the basic print function, we want to print what we call the hello world. Okay, let me get this. Okay, so here you want to print hello world. So the print function prints a specified message to the screen, right? The printed message can be a string or any other object, but will be converted to a string before returning the object. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, let's type. How do we do that? So we type print. We type hello. So you see, I type print. So print is what we call is a function. Print is a function. Print hello. Okay, in quotes. So if you notice, I open up print, I open up this parentheses, and I type in these two quotes with HELLO, hello, and space WORLD with a exclamation mark. Print hello world. And all I have to do is just move it up, move this mouse to the run, and I click on the run, or I can click on Control Enter. I click run. It will print out hello world, right? If I remove this and if I run, it's nothing, right? Because the system doesn't know it. But you see the word print hello here, but this print hello world is just a command to state that, you know, print hello world. But it's not going to do anything. No matter how many times I run it, the system doesn't understand what you want it to do. So you have to give it a specific instruction. And that instruction is called print. The print function, it now knows that it's supposed to display something. And what it's supposed to display is called hello world with the exclamation mark. Right? You can definitely print whatever you want to print, but this is what it means. You can also do the same printing hello world. Instead of double quotes, you can use single quotes. So print hello world, okay, in single quotes. Same, it works the same. Double quotes and single quotes work the same way, right? Okay, so I just have to run this again. So I click on and move it up to run. It runs, and you can see it comes out as hello world in single quotes, right? So these are two very similar operations that you can use either with quotes or with single quotes or double quotes, right? Basically, we just did a simple print function. So congratulations, you have written your first Python code. Well, if it's your first code programming language, congratulations, you've written your first code, right? And it's successful. It works, right? You have already told the system to print for you hello world, and it has done it exactly the way you want it to do. The next step is to ask the computer to print multiple values instead of just one set of value, right? And you can do that using the print function and separating the request using comma. So in this case, I'm going to use the print function. I'm going to type in my name is, right? I can definitely type my name is Sajun and I can print this out. But this is a single instruction, right? It's going to say my name is Sarj, and it's going to print my name is Sarj, right? But what if I want to send two different set of words that are to be printed together? So in this case, I can do a my name is, and then I do a comma. You can see the comma is outside of that quotes, and I put in a second word, Sarj. This is a bit different. Here, there's the first value is called my name is, the second value is called Sarj. And when I run this, it shows my name is Sarj. It gives the same value. Okay, the Python's print function actually has a parameter, so you can do another comma. It's called the separator, SEP. So if you want to know what a separator is, you can actually Google it. Okay, so you can type print function Python. So usually you can Google. You can also use the Python help function as well. Usually I just Google. I like to Google a lot. So if you type Python print function, you can see the Python. These are the objects, right? These are the arguments, right? There's a separator that you can pass in called SEP, right? Or you can use an AND as well. So these are all parameters that the file looks out for. So if I pass in a separator, it will use a separator inside this printing option. I'll just show you next after this shortly, right? But these are objects. So objects are actually the number. These objects can be as long as many as possible. Whatever printing you want. You can have 10, you can have 20, you can have a lot as well, right? So so based on that, you can now set, for this case, sorry, you can set, let me just use this. Okay, you can set SEP equals to, this is the separator option. The separator is now a comma. So if I were to put a comma now, you can see that my name is, there's a comma, and then there is Sarj. So the two words are separate, the two sentences are separated by a comma, right? My name is Sarj, right? Similarly, I can set the same thing. I can do a print my name is, comma. I can do my name is Sarj, and then I can do SEP. This time I can do a space. So I open two quotes. I press the space. I close the quote, right? And then I close the brackets, right? And then I run this cell. You can see this time around the separator is a space. So in between the first set of values and the second set of values, it is now separated by a space. You can see this part is a space, right? Okay, so now if I do not set any separator, as you know, the default separator is actually a space. So if I were to type my name is, and I put Sarj, you will see that the default is a space. So even if you don't pass in any separator, the default is always going to be a space. So this is something that you need to know as well, right? Okay, with that said, now I want to show you printing on multiple lines, right? Separate printing on multiple lines. So if I were to print, remember Python is case sensitive. So if I put print, it is not a print statement. Print statement is always small p, so print. Okay, it's also not, print statement is also not print, right? Different, this might be in a different programming syntax, but in Python it's always print. You'll see that the color changes to green in Jupyter Notebook. In different IDEs, the colors will change respectively as well, right? So separating multiple print statement, if I were to type, this, in quotes, this is printed on the first line, right? Now I'm going to do the next, I press enter. So again, I press enter from here, I go to the next line, I type, this is printed on the next line, right? So here, if I were to close this bracket, and if I were to run this, right, you will see that they are printed on two separate lines, right? Now, I'm going to do the same thing, right? But this time I'm going to add the n parameter of the first print statement to /n. Okay, so what does /n mean? /n means to automatically set print the next line after the first line. So this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do print this is printed on the first line, right? And here I'm going to set the n parameter, END, equals to, and you notice the END is a word, it's not in quotes, because that is a parameter. So parameters are given in the actual form itself, right? And I'm going to type in quotes slash n. So this is the backward slash, right? It's a backward slash. That's a forward slash, backward slash. Yep. Just double check. Well, see, sometimes you want to know what's the difference between backward slash and forward slash. Backward slash. So just be careful what's backward slash and what's forward slash. So this is the backward slash, and this is the common slash. So yep. So this one is the, let me just check one more time. Yep. This is the backward slash. See, I confirm this. Sometimes you think I know, but sometimes I know I doubt. You know, we can't remember all this. And one thing I want to tell you, I don't remember all my codes. I don't remember. I have very poor memory for a guy who does coding, right? Because I understand things, I understand processes. That's how I'm able to do my coding very well. It's not because I memorize things. Memorizing doesn't get anything. Trust me, right? Understand them. Understanding helps, right? A lot. So this, again, this is printed on the next line. Wrong spelling for next line, right? Okay, so we run this. You can see that it's actually printing the same as the one before. So the default of the n parameter is a /n, right? Now I'm going to make it a bit more interesting. Let's set the n parameter to a space instead, right? So I'm going to do print this is printed on the first line, right? My n parameter is equals to a space, right? I say I want to set it to a space, right? And I close this parameter, I close this, and then I type again, print this is printed on the next line. Okay? Or is it not? Let's see. It's not printed on the next line. So now the n parameter is taken as a space. So no matter how many print statements you have, it will only give a space as the final n, and then it will print the other statement, right? So it's not going to give you multiple spaces, right? So this is something that you need to keep track of the n parameter as well. Okay, if you want to print a blank line, right? Printing a blank line is actually quite simple, right? You can just print /n. So /n means you're going to print a blank line, right? So again, print there exists a white space. So a white space is basically a blank line after this sentence, right? You can also, so I'm going to do a print. So you see, I'm going to print a /n. So this /n means it's going to print a blank line. It's going to be a blank line. This /n means a blank line. That's how Python sees its instruction as a blank line, right? And then you can say print there exists a white space before this sentence, right? Now you can see, if I were to remove this print /n, and you can see that they are quite close to each other. There's no space, right? But if I were to type in print /n, you can see that there's actually a space, right? So this is how you print a space, right? You can also print a set of strings separated by a comma. So let's type computer accessories. This is now a variable, okay? You will understand variable later, but for now, just type computer accessories. We do a bracket. We type CPU, comma, mouse, comma, keyboard, right? With all this stuff, right? What can you do? You can print. So you know that these three values are separated by comma, right? And then you can type in computer. And for when you reference a variable, because the variable is already stored, the system knows that this variable refers to CPU, mouse, and so this variable computer accessories refers to CPU, mouse, and keyboard. So if I were to write this, if I run this, you can see CPU, mouse, and keyboard all comes out with the bracket itself. So later we will understand what type of variable this is, but this is just to let you know you can also do something like this, right? Okay. The use of consistent quotes. Okay, this is important. Earlier I said you can print with either double quotes or single quotes, right? But in essence, you can actually also get into trouble if you don't use the same quotes. Example, so if I were to type print, open up with the first quote, I close this, I type hello, and I close it with a single quote, and I run this, there's an error because the the literal of this is not correct. That it's expecting a double quote, but you're closing it with a single quote, right? It's when if you use the double quote, you must respect it by closing a double quote. If you use a single quote, you must respect it by closing a single quote. You cannot mix them around; they get offended, right? So yeah, so that's what this is about. And then you can also use concatenation using print. Okay, so what's concatenation? Concatenation is actually quite simple. So earlier I used comma, right? So I can now use what we call a plus sign. So we can do print, I can do ice cream, right? I can do ice cream plus is good, right? I can run this. But you realize that when I do concatenation, unlike comma and using separators, there is a default space given, right? When you use concatenation, there is no space. So you need to be careful of this limitation. So you have to actually provide the space yourself. So in this case, you type print ice cream space plus again is good, right? So you see ice cream is good. So that's how it is. Okay, comments and markdown, I kind of covered it earlier. I'll cover it one more time here. Okay, so the use of hash sign provides you with the ability to type comments. So this is a comment, right? If I just type in quotes, this is a sentence, it will just come out as this is a sentence. It's just taking it as a string. A string literal just comes out, right? But you notice this is just printing out a string literal output, and you can see this word out here, right? It's not a specific action. It's just the last action that is printed out. So just be careful whenever you is it a print statement or is it not a print statement? Yes, it's a print statement, but it's only printing out the last statement. So if you say is this printed? So if I type is this printed or not? So if I'm printing, but I should print both, right? You see, it's only printing the last statement, right? If I remove this, then it prints is this printed or not. So this one you have to be very careful, right? Because it's only printing the last. This is a sentence, right? So it's not printed. So the earlier lines are not printed. As long as you have two quotes. So if you want to literally print them out, you have to put the word print in front of them. Literally put the word print in front of them. Open the bracket and close it. Again, same for the one in the next line. Open the brackets and close it. As simple as that. So if I run this, both are printed, right? But because I'm teaching this, so I need to keep this as this is a sentence that is not printed, right? It's just a sentence that's coming up, right? Okay, so markdown again. I also said you can change the cell to a markdown. You can go on top and change it to a markdown cell, and then you can type markdown type as well. So this is a paragraph that explains the findings of my data analytics work. Something simple, right? So I just run this, gives you a like a paragraph kind of thing. So you don't have to the thing is it'll become just something that you can't delete it. You see, it's kind of like something that's nice to see and stuff like that. So it's like a paragraph thing. Yep. So I'll change this back to code, and yep. So that is the end of lesson 2. I will see you again in lesson 3. So I hope so far you're able to follow and yeah, learn something. I hope I'm going at a decent pace. If you feel I'm going too fast, please do rewind the video and watch it at your pace so that it's easier, right? I hope I have helped you to start off at least. The subsequent lectures will get a little bit more intense. There will be a lot of learning processes. So hope to see you there. Yep. Thank you. See you. Bye.